Today's guests on Beyond the Studio are Justin and Kristina from Virtigo Pictures. Justin and Kristina are a husband and wife duo, and they own a virtual production facility down in Austin, Texas. I actually visited their facility before I opened up my facility just to talk with other studio owners, just to kind of see what other people were doing, and I was blown away. Their studio is top-notch, top level. So they've done some pivoting over the years, as have I. So it's gonna be a great conversation. I'm gonna ask them about why they chose to do certain things, what got them into the industry, etc. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Justin and Kristina. Justin and Kristina.
Hello.
How y'all doing?
Good.
Good. Thanks for having us, Brent.
Yeah, thanks
Happy
for being
Friday.
here. Happy Friday.
Yeah.
It is Friday. Yeah. I'm always pleased that people take time out of their day to drive all the way up here to Round Rock. So thank y'all for being here.
Of course. I mean, my dad lives down the road too, so I haven't been up in Round Rock actually for a while, but it's a good old stomping grounds here, you know?
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. When did you move down to Austin?
See, well, I moved back here, back to the Round Rock, Austin area in 2009. I stayed up in Fort Worth for a few years after I graduated from college. Went to TCU and came back down here in 2009. And then I think I made the shift down to Austin in like 2012 or 2013.
Did y'all meet here?
In Austin.
In Austin,
Okay.
yeah.
I think we asked him to speak at an event or something, the company that I was a part of at the time.
Yeah, I did a small little like creative showcase for them for a music video I did for a band that I was shooting music videos for. Her and her brother started a video production company, and my brother had met one of
our
their
partners.
business partners who invited us over to their original office, which was shared with a cruise ship holiday.
Yeah, and that was in North Austin, up on off of Mopac.
Yeah, so it was an interesting office. Like at the front of the office was a woman who would, plan your vacations, and in the back of the office they were like editing and doing. It was a very interesting situation. But that's the first time I was introduced to Kristina. Yeah,
Nice.
And who knew?
Who knew that
But
years
someday
later it would lead to
We would start a
here.
studio.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
it would
that's
lead
how
to a
we met.
child and a marriage and a studio.
Yeah.
Which is basically another
Yeah,
child.
it's a trifecta of
Yeah.
many a thing.
Yeah.
The studio is more expensive than the child, definitely.
Oh, really? For now. Just wait till college comes around. Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. So yeah, how did y'all initially come up with the idea? Like, were y'all already in production doing film and editing and stuff?
Yeah. Well, we came from two different sides. Kristina's comes from a learning side.
Right. I did media-based training largely, and then had some corporate communications and clients as well. So, we had separate production companies at the time that we really started working together more, which was 2019, maybe 2018,
Yeah, so
something
not
like
too long
that.
ago.
Yeah, we just both started hiring, and then Justin was in the commercial
I did
and TV
and
film space.
stuff. A lot of the stuff I did was, I did some EPK work for like HBO when they had some shows here. Shot some interviews for them across a few different platforms. But yeah, I was doing more commercial work, like DPing,
Nice.
directing here and there. Kristina had a need for a director of photography for the shoots that she was doing because she didn't want to do that anymore.
And he gave me a good deal.
After it was negotiated, I was a little too expensive for her needs at the time, but I also was hungry for work. So yes, yes,
Yeah,
I was affordable after a few conversations.
Yeah, and then I learned like a decade later it was all part of his grand plan.
Oh, yes. I call it my grand plan where I would be like, okay, now I'm going to try to date her. Okay, now I'm going to start a business with her. Okay, now we're going to have a kid. Yeah. Yeah. So it's the plan is still ongoing. There's many things in my plan that I haven't revealed yet.
And we still haven't even answered your question. But
Well, go ahead.
yeah, so we started working together more and more and more, and then we're like I had reformed another business that had closed, and my partners got some like kind of those jobs you can't turn down offers. So we ended up closing down our business, which we had a space and like sort of a small studio space, but it was like, just the fabric green screen, nothing like cool like y'all have here that, we have now. But
It worked for what you all had, though.
So we ended up, for the same years, we were both working out of our houses for like a short term, and then we were just like ready to kind of get into a more professional space again. And we're like, well, let's, why don't we come together and we'll do a shared space? And then we started looking at spaces, and we're seeing like these bigger sized things that we knew we couldn't afford. And we're like, well, what if it was collaborative? And we started like sort of a studio that was also co-working, and then we could do something where like people for like a really affordable price could get studio time and like training and all sorts of stuff. But we opened during COVID, and who knew COVID would last as long as it did.
Yeah, I mean, we're crazy to even start. I mean, we opened in January 2021, and months prior to that, like just 6 months prior is when we changed the idea of what the studio was going to be. Like the basis of it was there. Like we were going to have the co-working side still, so that was really where we were hoping we're going to generate most of our revenue to pay for rent.
Yeah, stability.
Yeah, but because it was such a like what if, it was
We'd
more
start
so,
getting some people, and then we get one of those waves, and everything would.
Yeah.
It was hard.
Shut down.
It was very hard. So, but yeah, 6 months prior, we were gonna do exactly what you guys have here, which is like a white site green screen, and during the summer of 2020. When it was like, the entire nation shut down, Kristina and I found an opportunity to take a trip up to Colorado for like almost the entire month of July, I think it was.
Yeah,
or
we took
August.
some work with us, but not too much.
Yeah. We worked the first week we were there, and then the next 2.5 weeks we enjoyed ourselves.
That's great. Good for you.
Yeah, just went camping. But during that time, I saw the article about the Mandalorian, like many other people did, and I was just like, "Oh, this is really interesting." I've always been a proponent of technology when it comes to storytelling. Been doing it for 15, 16 years. I had one of the first Red One cameras in Texas, and I was just like, "Huh, okay." So this new LED technology is really fun, and it's not new. It's like technology's been around for years because they use it for scoreboards, But how to implement that into storytelling, I was just like, I need to figure this out. This is really neat. And is anyone else doing it? No. Like it took us a while to like confirm that. It was just
no. But I mean, New York and LA had stages.
I meant in Texas.
Atlanta had
Right,
stages.
yeah.
Yeah, nobody
So
in Texas had.
We were
yet.
confirming, with Brian Gannon of the Austin Film Commission, like he confirmed even with the Texas Film Commission, is anyone doing this? We're like, oh God, we can't even look up to anyone while we're trying to figure this out. But, I presented the idea to Kristina, like over that vacation. It was just like, hey, like, do you get this? Like, do you understand? And she was like, she clicks. That's her brain works very well. And the next 6 months was like, how do we figure this out? How do we like go from, white site green screen to like purchasing all the panels we need and the processor and finding a computer that can run all this stuff and learning Unreal Engine and doing all that. I mean, it was like a master class of like homemade virtual production, like grassroots stuff. And that's kind of, the short end of the story. It's Cliff Notes. There's a lot of struggles between that time. Even when we opened, being able to get Unreal to work correctly with the wall was almost impossible because there was no documentation. So they had no virtual production tools. You had to code everything, especially with end display, which is what runs the wall. So it was very difficult. There's a lot of humps that we needed to take. So it took us like 2.5, 3 months for us to like get the frustum to just camera track correctly. It was just crazy to think about. And we could still display regular images and videos and stuff. But
Yeah. So back up a little bit. In case somebody is not familiar with who y'all are, what is Virtigo Pictures, and kind of describe y'all's studio, because it's not just a normal studio, right? If somebody thinks of a production studio or a photography studio, they have a different idea in their mind than virtual production and a volume wall. So kind of describe y'all's studio. What is a volume wall? What's virtual production like?
So Virtigo Pictures is, we're a full service virtual production services company. So not only do we offer, we have our own space, which is a 2,500 square foot studio. We have a 50 foot by 12 foot LED wall that we use to display graphics, but also we develop Unreal Engine 3D environments that are camera tracked. So they, If you've seen a behind the scenes video out there, it pretty much just places your talent, immerses them in this environment.
Yeah, it's like the new green screen, right? Is that an easy way to describe it?
Yes. So, and the advantages of it is like, you don't have green screen spill, so we don't have to deal with that. In fact, the LED wall, depending on the brightness that we're shooting at on it, can help, with the environment lighting, but more so just with reflections. And so there's a lot of advantages to it. But, when we first started, our name was Co-Production House. We're the same company, but as the years have gone by, we've been
we've changed.
We've changed.
We've probably actually changed our business plan like every month since we opened. It's like, okay, what are people enjoying about certain services? What are they not enjoying? Like, how can we provide more benefits? How can we streamline processes? All those things kind of come into our workflow, and we want to absolutely have people have a good experience. So if there's anything that we can ever do to improve, we're constantly changing things. So really, with virtual production being like as complex as it is, we're like, okay, we can't just rent the space to people and like have them use it, because they can't use it, because they need us to like develop the environments, talk about how the environments are lit, talk about how that converts to like your actual lighting and how you need to mimic things in the studio and how your perspective's looking and everything else. So, we realized that like, because what we're doing is so complicated and new, that like we needed to provide more services. And we're super flexible too. So we, like y'all, like we have, our own company. So we do support productions for commercial, corporate, and, we usually are support on TV and film and stuff as well. We've continuously changed. And then we got to a point where, people were kind of like, why you guys are like more in a studio? We're like, yeah, we are. Okay. So let's rebrand and just like really present what we can do.
Beyond the Studio is produced and recorded at Round Rock Studio, the perfect space to bring your visual ideas to life. Round Rock Studio is a photography and production studio with a 20-foot by 20-foot cyclorama wall. The studio has built-in lights, essential grit gear, and even a client green room, setting you up for a successful shoot. Round Rock Studio also offers podcast recording in their state-of-the-art podcast room, including microphones, cameras, lights, and everything you need to get your podcast out into the world. Go to roundrock.studio for more information. Round Rock Studio, a place for creatives to be creative.
Yeah. And even here, like we've done a lot of changing of the business model, like you said, right? And I think that's important too, because like when you're starting a business, you have your business plan, but you have to be able to pivot when it's time to pivot. You have to be able to change some of that business plan, right?
Right.
Because you can't, like, it's not set in stone, and it shouldn't be set in stone. Like, you can't write it and then for the next 5 years execute it perfectly, because times change. And so we've experienced that too. Like, I opened up as primarily a production company, with the studio being a tool that we could use and also offer it to other people in the area, which was going to be cool. And then immediately when I kind of opened it, right, like January 1 of 2023, two of my biggest clients like really dropped their budget. And so I was like, okay, I had to pivot, because I didn't have that income, right? So I had to kind of figure out, how can I utilize this brand new studio to bring in more income outside of my own work, because my own work slowed down tremendously. And then, we thought about a co-working space, right? Similar to y'all's process. It sounds like those are similar ideas. And so we pursued that, built the website, got the furniture, did the whole thing, but it never really got legs and took off. So I was like, okay, I can keep trying this. I can pump more money into ads. I can try to get more coworkers here, or I can stop and think, is this actually something that I want to do? Is this actually like, do I want my studio to be a co-working space? Like maybe, or maybe not. You know what I mean? It's because like, I don't work in a co-working space. I've never worked in a co-working space. So maybe it's actually not a passion. Maybe it's just kind of a random idea. And I think as a creative, at least in my life, I will pursue an idea like past chapter 1, past chapter 2, and then I'll be like, do I really want to keep doing this? And then I'll close that book, right? And I think that's important. A lot of creatives do that. Like if I had $1 for every idea that I had and pursued after 1 or 2 chapters, like that's a lot, right? It's a lot of ideas. So you just got to kind of get them through that filter, and then one idea will stick, and you'll love it. You'll have passion for it, passion enough to keep pursuing it. Ends will meet. People start paying you money to do it, and it'll just kind of all make sense. Yeah. How did y'all's business change over the years?
Yeah, I mean, we stopped trying to advertise the co-working model probably after the first year, because
it's funny. It was like when COVID ended, we were like, productions kind of need the space anyway, and liked having that flexibility too, because it's nice to be able to have talent there, have people editing, doing work, hair and make, like. It became kind of a need, and then we keep going back and forth too. We're like,
just like, should we sublet it?
and then like people need it all of a sudden, and
very similar. I thought the same thing. I was like, should I sublet it? But then boom, I'm like, oh well, we need this for X, Y, or Z.
Yeah,
so it's really tough
because it's it's an underutilized space otherwise, right? I mean, it's a great space.
Yeah,
it's fully furnished and like everything. We spent a lot of money to put all the furniture in there and to build all the things we did,
make it comfortable.
But yeah, I mean, the Austin market, at least on a personal level, this isn't on like a Vertigo level, but I've noticed the Austin market, I don't think they're ready for like a co-working video model, because ultimately you'd be in a space with your competitors, and so like, what does that look like? Would you need to, just limit the amount of production companies that are actually in a space? And then bring in like, okay, well, you have a production company that's in here. Cool. Maybe if you have, a production designer company in here, maybe you have like a costume or a makeup company in here. Like that's what it should be. But all those people want their own spaces.
Right.
It's important for them to have their own space. And I think that's what I've learned on a personal level. Again, maybe not fit for Vertigo, but that's what I've like just tried to understand about that. So how did we stray away from that, change it, is that we've really have been concentrating again on the service side, is that we have a great studio. We love the space. We've actually kind of outgrown it in some ways because of the type of clientele that we've been getting. And then other times we've found that like the clientele is perfect for what we're shooting in there. But we've produced a lot of great work in there. A lot more on the commercial side than anything. We've had a TV show or two in there. We've had a few independent films in there. And their needs aren't exactly what our clients' needs are, which is interesting. It's that our clients are actually looking for the more full service stuff, where we've provided that space for the TV and the films, and they are bringing their own content to display on the wall, and that's fine. We're still supporting them. We still have our LED tech there to support them. But in terms of us changing it, is we're a very service-based company, and that's where we found our power to be. Well,
and then we'd like almost discover new uses through needs too. So like even the full volume services are rather expensive, and they're not right for everybody. So what was it, like 2 years ago or something? We had a shoot where actually there's some issue with end display or something happened.
Oh yeah, it was a Windows software.
Yeah.
Funky thing.
Thank you, Windows. Yeah, we hate you.
You can only run PCs to do
So we
what
actually
do.
ended up displaying like some path trace stills that we had taken like during the development of the project, and looked great. And we're able to complete the shoot, and like kind of had to come up with that on the fly. But then we're like, this is actually a great model because we don't have to charge for the camera tracking system, which is really expensive. We don't have to optimize the scene, which takes a lot of time. And so this is like kind of a cool like middle ground, that we found people are like getting excited to break into, because there's just that fear and that, like, okay, that's a big budget and it's something new and I haven't done it before, right? And like there's a lot that goes into just the director being open to things too, to like make things successful. So we found these like other different types of ways to utilize the LED screen and still utilize like our skills in creating custom environments that like work for like sort of a different target, right? And we're, we want to support our community and like be there for, providing things that people need that they can use that are new. And without having different options, like we wouldn't be able to do that. So we've kind of created things as we've got along.
Yeah. How did y'all find y'all's location? Because y'all are in prime area, right? Y'all are in downtown Austin.
Yeah, we had an amazing broker.
Yeah, well, it's funny how that space came about, though. So when
we viewed it a year before we ended up there, didn't we?
Yeah. so we incorporated in 2019, and then when COVID rolled around, things slowed down, right? So January of 2020, we're actually looking at the exact same space that we're in now, but it was not built out, right? It was the shell of a building. They haven't finished constructing it yet, and the original commercial real estate broker that we had was not a very good one. And she
almost got us into a bad.
Yeah, she was very close to getting us into a terrible situation.
How so? Can you elaborate on that?
It was a bad deal.
Yeah, it was a really bad deal. It would have been probably twice as expensive as what we're paying now. And the current landlord, the development company, they weren't going to give us any tenant allowance to build out anything.
Which we didn't get anyway, but we did get at least some free rent and a better contract.
Right, but they wanted us to pay for the walls and the air conditioning and, like the basic things that someone would need to rent.
It was like the
space.
Reverse of what you're supposed to have when you get a space. Like they're supposed to do a build out for you, and they kind of wanted us to pay for the build out for them.
So
So
Kristina actually, she had a contact,
and he's like, "This is terrible."
Well, and the funnier part of that story is like he knew the other commercial real estate broker, and he's like, "Oh, I wouldn't expect any less from them." Yeah, so it's like,
well, good for y'all for getting a second opinion.
Yeah, no.
Well, we kind of got slack for
always
that,
did.
but glad we did.
Yeah, whatever. But over the course of all that happening, is like, boom, COVID happened. Like I had just finished directing a commercial down in Mississippi that Kristina was producing for me, and it was like 2 days before the nation's like, sorry, everyone,
that was a
we're
really
done.
fun shoot too.
It was a fun shoot.
Yeah, I'm so glad it happened.
Yeah,
right
we came
in
back
time.
and then we just pretty much were sitting on our hands, just like waiting for something to happen. And during this course, we were just like, hey, okay, what is co-production house going to be? What is this idea? And then we're like, we need to get out of town. So, over the course of those few months, that's when we went to Colorado and
COVID kind of forced y'all to slow down and like think about your
it
business.
Was, it was a blessing in disguise.
Yeah.
Luckily, we didn't have any family members that were effective terminally because of it. So we were very lucky in many, many ways. And so we were able to concentrate fully onto the business. And I remember her and I would be like ping-ponging the business plan back and forth. Like we had a 20 or 30 page business plan. And looking back at it now, it's just like, man, that was like a really good idea. And we've kind of reintroduced some ideas back into what we're doing now, but we've also kind of shelved things and we may never dust it off,
But like we also still like hit all of our goals. Like there's something just to writing it all down and and then do your market research. And then you're like, okay, well, this is where I want to be. So like, how do I get there? And we did all that. And then we hit all of our goals actually faster than we thought we were going to.
Yeah.
Just with like, we wanted to expand, our first LED wall was much smaller and we wanted to expand that. We wanted to change space. We wanted a certain type of clientele. And like, we've met all of those goals, which has been great.
That's great. Yeah. Writing down your goals is an important thing. I remember I was on a plane and I was reading a book about real estate. I was thinking about real estate, and then I was like, you know what? Let me write down some goals. And so I wrote down buy a house or an investment property. I already had a primary house, and then I wrote down a few other goals: grow the business, hire an employee, X, Y, and Z. And then I kind of closed that software, and I forgot about the software and never looked at it again. And then like a few years later, I stumbled upon that document and I opened it up and I had achieved all those goals without even looking at it. You know what I mean? Like I didn't rewrite them down. I wasn't thinking about them every day, but I had written them down one time. And then years later, like somehow it was in there. You know what I mean? And I had bought a house. I'd hired an employee. I'd kind of done all the goals that I set out to do.
Had the 2.5 kids. And
2.5, 2 kids. Don't get ahead of us now. 2 kids for now. Yeah.
No, it's amazing how manifestation happens in many ways because, thinking about it is one thing, but, we're very visual people. I think everyone in here is in this room is visual. And so like, yeah, for me, like when I write something down, like I have to like close my eyes and be like, okay, we're there. And then, you know, for me, I mean, it works, but it's not overnight. Like,
Right.
but it forces us to bust our asses to get there, you know? And that's what we've been doing the last 4 years, and we're not stopping. We're tired.
Yeah.
We're really tired.
Probably more so me. I feel like your breakdowns are more internal. Mine are more like, oh, should we just give up? And then like, we can't. Like, you just look at it and you're just like, no, like, this is like literally who we are. Like, this is our life. It's not like we're not studio owners. Like, we are living in this world, and all we want to do is produce media.
Yeah.
So whenever,
good media, you know,
anytime we
difference,
feel defeated, because it happens, COVID, you know, the ebbs and flows of how things are going.
Yeah, and last
just-
year during the strikes, like crushed everybody.
Yeah.
You know,
Really?
even on the smaller level. I mean, like we're an indie studio. You know, we don't have many union productions
It's kind
come
of like
through.
an energy that sort of like filters down.
But yeah, people aren't going to produce stuff if there's not crews to produce it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so
Yeah. Yeah. And it is stressful. And oftentimes you want to throw in the towel and you have little breakdowns. But one of my favorite little quotes, I don't know who said it, but it was in a book I read, and it said, I didn't come this far to only come this far.
Right.
Right. Like y'all
Yeah,
built a
that's good.
studio.
Yeah.
Y'all built a community. Y'all have done a great job. So it would almost be like a disrespect to your past self to give up. Right. That's how I think
Right.
about it. Like if I were to give up, Brent from 2 years ago would hate
He'd
me.
be so
I'd be disrespecting that guy. Right.
Yeah.
Because he laid the foundation. He took the steps to get to where I am today.
yeah.
Right. So you just got to kind of keep going.
They're absolutely right, man. Yeah, I mean, looking back at what we did, even back in 2019, 2020, to even open up, was just like, oh my God, this is hard. Is it going to continue to be this hard? And the answer is yeah. But it's, you know, at least some things we've discovered workflows that work better for us in many a way. And then we're creating new workflows in many a way too. So, and we hired an employee last year. We did have someone else that we were contracting out that did great for us for the first year. And then like, as we were getting bigger, it's like, okay, we need a more permanent position. Who can fill that? And Hunter's been amazing in terms of just relieving us of a lot of the stresses that like we had taken on. Like I was the Unreal Engine developer for the first couple of years that we were open.
And you almost always operated stage.
I always operated stage, and then I DP'd and directed stuff. I mean, it was just too much. You know, it's just like I can't concentrate on one thing. And when Hunter came in, it was like, we can give him, you know, all the information he needs to start building scenes. I trained him so well on the. I trained him so he's very trainable person. Sorry, let me throw that. He is very smart, and
And he had
was
brought a
able to
lot
catch
of
on.
knowledge. So we actually had found him from, we started doing work with the UT classes in the cinematic emergent arts program. An old colleague of mine is the professor there. And then when we opened the studio, like he had spent time at Epic Games for a while. So I was like, oh, you guys should talk. And then sort of grew into this. So, you know, we ended up, you know, coming to this deal where we're like, all right, you know, let's, you know, provide services for like the students to become like write their own films, create their own environments, direct and shoot their own projects. And it was like he was part of the first class, and it was like
he was the standout.
it was so great though just to see this, like, you know, we've been doing this for so long. Like sometimes
Having a new
you almost,
energy come in.
yeah, it's like
Yeah.
they're so creative and they're so fun and like just excited about the industry and life and like
Well, the
such a
chances of
positive
them
experience.
being able to shoot on a LED volume are very minimal. You know, when they graduate, it's like, where do I go? Unless they try to get a job there. So us being able to provide that for these students has been phenomenal. And then, you know, on the offshoot, we can hire them. You know, and again, Hunter was the standout. He actually came to us around the same time of us like thinking, hey, you know, it's time for an intern. You know, and he like sent us an email. He's like, hey, you guys have internships? And we're like, yes.
Why
And he was
not?
exactly the person we were like wanted to come. Yeah. So he started with us January of 2023 as an intern. We started paying him in April part-time. I think he was working 20 hours a week. And then in August, we're like, hey, man, we want to do this. You want to hop on? And he said yes immediately, which is great. And we all get along. I mean, it's us three. Doing everything. You know, we do bring on additional people when we need them, depending on the production. But Normally it's Hunter like creating Unreal now. I'll jump in if we're getting like bogged down. He operates a stage, I'll direct and DP, and Kristina's pretty much the overall creative, looking over all of it, and she's producing and doing all the business stuff, which, if we didn't have Kristina, then we wouldn't be alive as a company right now. She's got much better business sense than me. I do not have any. So
yeah, and you need both. It's more than just running a camera, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a camera guy, and then when I started a business, it was immediately like, whoa, there's a whole lot more to running a business than just being creative, than just being a good storyteller, right? And there's like taxes and like a myriad of things that you have to think about in order to run a business.
Well, and that's exactly what I've been learning from her. I can't close my book on like the business end because, if Kristina, if she's out for some reason for months, then we're like, okay, well, someone has to like pick up the slack. So I've learned a lot from her in that aspect. And I'm hoping she's learned a lot from me, but she's already super creative and much better at colors than me, which is funny. We always have
Color offs.
Yeah, it's like the color looks a little, it's like, no, it doesn't. And then she's like always right every single time. It's like,
That's so funny.
what's great about at least both of our skills is that like we're able to teach the new generation that, and that's why Hunter's been excellent too, is that like he retains information, man. He just sucks it in. And so
Students like know the tools.
they know them really well.
Yeah, and they have creative brains, and
Yeah, and then we're able to kind of coach them a little bit. It's like, hey, like you have about 15 too many lights in this scene. This is how we would do it to make it look a little bit better. And so then they're like, oh, so it's valuable in many ways, is that we get to, again, teach, new generation. And then they also just get to see how, a professional company gets to do it, so.
Yeah.
speaking of teaching, I mean, what was y'all's reason to get into like the workshop and education space?
Yeah, exactly that. I mean, I think, now that I'm in my 30s and I've had, experience doing production and all that stuff, I feel like it's my responsibility to kind of mentor like you said, the next generation. I remember when I was in college and like getting my hands on a camera, like I just ate it up, and it kind of opened up something, like kind of gave me my voice, like as an artist. Like that's the most important thing is for you to find your voice, for you to find why you're waking up in the morning, right? Why are you creating? So if I can, help open up that mindset in younger people by putting a camera in their hands or putting a microphone in their hands or just showing them a picture or showing them a computer program or something like that. Like I don't know, that's amazing. I feel like that's my higher calling in a way. Like the studio's fun, creating commercials and like, videos is fun and stuff like that. But inspiring the next generation, I think is where it's at. Yeah.
I mean, it does touch on, a lot of heart, at least for me doing that. My mom loved photography. And like, I don't remember her teaching me anything about it, but I remember using her camera when I was in college to take my first, film class, like actual shooting film, developing film. And we shot black and white, and it was awesome. Just like learning that process and stuff. And I was just like, oh man, like, I never really looked up to her as like a mentor in terms of that, but I at least retained that from her. It's just like, I knew she took a lot of photos of us as kids, and she took great ones too. And I was like, oh man. So there might've been something that clicked there, that I just wasn't aware of. But for me to be able to pass down like what I've learned is super important to me on a personal level.
And we do it with our kid too. He's had a camera in his hand since before he was even 1 year old.
Yeah. And he's like, he's only 2.5 now, but like he has this silly little, mock iPhone thing that has like the worst, webcam on it ever. But he's, he's trying to
frame his face.
Frame it the way. Yeah. I mean, it's awesome.
I can just picture y'all's kid going to like show and tell, and all these other kids are like, look at this photo I took. And then your son's like, look at this photo I took on a volume wall with a desert scene or something like that.
Yeah. Well, we haven't gotten there yet, but we'll see. He likes little Matchbox cars, right?
Yeah, I have kids too. I have two boys.
How old?
9 years old and almost 7.
Oh.
2 boys. We adopted them 5 years ago.
Oh, are they brothers? Are they actually
They're biological brothers.
Oh, wow.
Yep, I know. We had a 2-for-1 special, and it's great to see them grow up. Like we were talking about movies. Like I'm rewatching all these old kids movies and all these old Pixar movies with my kids, and I have much more respect for those movies as an adult than I did as a kid. You know, as a kid, I liked them; they were fun. But now, as an adult, I see these movies and these stories that these writers put together, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so deep.
You know, I really like the one that sticks out to me is Soul. If you watch Soul, oh, dude, I've cried at that movie so many times.
I mean, I think I cry at every Disney and Pixar
there's
movie.
just so
They're
much
all
more.
movies.
I mean, that one just hit me like extra hard, just about like the meaning of life, pretty much. And it's just like it's still ambiguous in a lot of ways, but I just love the idea of him searching for his meaning. But he thought he knew what it was, but by the end of the film, he's just like, yeah, it's more than that. It's more than those little moments. And I was like, oh, God. And the moment where he's like, sorry.
I mean, and then you have a brilliant score, you know.
Yeah. John Batiste is amazing. And then Trent Reznor.
Yeah.
But my favorite scene in that movie is where he goes back to his piano and he finds all the stuff that he's collected in that one day. That, he was teaching the other soul pretty much how exciting life can be. And then he's like remembering this and he's playing it. It's just like, oh God, stop. Where's the box of tissues? Man, it's so good. So good. That's such a great film.
Yeah, and those movies, they mean different stuff to kids too. You know, like a kid will find it entertaining and stuff, but then in 10 years, if your son watches Soul again, it might mean something different. Or in 20 years, when he's a grown up and can understand a lot of the deeper meaning of that stuff. Hey, real quick, thanks so much for listening. I just wanted to pop in here and say that it means a lot that you took time out of your day to listen to Beyond the Studio. So thank you so much. We've got a lot of fun stuff planned for this podcast. We have a lot of smart and talented people who have opened up their own studio. So if you found any value in here, I would love if you could like and share. And also if you have any tips or questions, send them to us. I'd love to get a conversation going on all these episodes of Beyond the Studio. So, okay. Thanks so much. You guys are awesome. We'll see you. Yeah, so y'all are a husband and wife duo owning a business, a mother and father duo owning a business. How do y'all balance all that?
I mean, it is our life, like we said. I mean, there's no like beginning and end of our day. It's just like it is what we are, kind of. It's not like there's no difference between
we're talking
work
about
and
business
not
all
work.
the time.
Yeah.
We're talking about opportunities. We're talking about new things that we're trying, because it's not a spur of the moment thought. We're not just sitting there just like, it's just a constant. It's a constant. And so, it's difficult, man. I mean, having a successful marriage is really hard already, but having that and trying to, oh, you make it look so easy.
Y'all are newlyweds too. Just wait till you hit like year 12.
Yeah. Well, we'll be in we'll
it's like a car. This car's great. It's only 2 years old.
But having a kid that you want to make happy is almost harder than anything else. Like you just want him to be the most joyful, have a smile on his face, have him laugh all the time. Like that's what I'd want from that. But yeah, I mean, juggling all this is just, it's just our life.
Mm-hmm. So we're on the older end of getting married and having kids, but like I always had like this great fear of like, and I think it'd been just like programmed through kind of corporate America. Like you can't date people that you work with, can't have a relationship with people you work with. So like when Justin started like trying to date me, I'm like, no, like I like to work with you. I do not want to date you. I don't want to ruin that with the relationship.
She tried to put a hex on it, but I was determined.
And now it's like,
ways.
I can't imagine any other way because like it is our life and it like, we both make each other better and we're both growth based. So like even our relationships, like I'd like to say been on a constant like improvement. It actually started out really, really hard.
Yeah.
And then
because we're trying to figure it out.
Then getting better.
We were just trying to figure it out. Yeah. Just trying to like, okay, what does the business look like? And we're like, oh, we're dating. This is, this is like,
but
this
now
could be a dumpster fire. It could be.
But we meet so many couples now too that are just like
they do exactly.
They make each other better.
Yeah. No, they're a team. Tim and Alex from Odd Labs, like they're they're excellent. They work together so well, and they both talk on their levels. You know,
How did y'all find your first clients? Because I know when I first opened, there was definitely, like, the quote, "If you build it, they will come."
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of true, but at the same time, it's kind of not true. Like,
Yeah,
you
there's
can't
a
just
lull.
build it and wait for magic. How'd y'all find your first clients?
We already had them.
yeah. I mean, a lot of the clients that first came to the studio, we already had, because they were actually happened to be Kristina's corporate clients that she had kind of ported over into the business. But we were lucky in many a way where, because of what we were offering, being the first in Texas doing it.
The Chronicle really helped us.
Yeah, it generated, Richard Whitaker from the Chronicle to do an article about us, which helped kind of like muster up some more excitement in the community here. We started up. We had what we called a soft opening. And then we had a grand opening the following year when we got our addition on the wall. Yeah. So we had, we wanted to do some events, which were originally going to be slated monthly, which was impossible.
Gosh, yeah. Well, it could have been possible, but it just became too much.
It was too much.
What were those events going to be?
Well, they were just creative events. So we invited like an artist to come showcase and talk about their work.
Musician,
we were going
artist.
A musician, and then we also had people selling stuff there. And we were showcasing a little bit about what we did. So they had a little bit of everything. And we had it catered. And it was just like, we can't do this every month. But it took a month to plan one. You know?
We just wanted to have that like Austin feel, like there's like with all the bars shutting down and all the dives getting like upscaled too much for my taste. Like we wanted to keep that like kind of Austin charm. So we're like, okay, let's bring some local artists in and musicians because like this is a music town.
Yeah.
Like why wouldn't we have local musicians, with everything that we do? Because like they're looking for work too,
Exactly. So that's how we generate an interest, get the name out there, have people be like, oh, these guys exist, We still have people that come into the studio over the last few months. It's like, how long have you guys been here? It's like, this is our 4th year. They're like, oh God, I didn't even know you existed. It's like, well,
that's we don't cold call. We just started Google Ads, and the only reason we're doing it is because we intentionally spelled our name incorrectly.
Like Vertigo.
So Google hates
instead
us.
Instead of Vertigo,
So
it's
like,
Virti.
so we're trying to
virtual
teach
Vertigo.
We're trying to teach the algorithms to know our name.
So, anyways, that's how we started. Yeah, our first clients were kind of ported over, but our new clients were generated from having those events in the first couple months, and then.
And then it's referrals. I don't know.
SEO on Google has helped quite a bit. Yeah. We're still up there, which is really awesome with CPH Vertigo. Again, that's why we did Google Ads too. But and then retaining the clientele, being able to produce really great work for them has always been important to us. And that's another reason why we're like, hey, we got to switch our brand over to something that's more representative of the type of work that we do, not just a space. We don't want to be represented as just a studio. We just don't. When
we actually made some great contacts at we had a booth at South by, so we ported over like a small section of our volume and like created a small version of what we have in our studio. We met a lot of people outside of town and even some folks that, are looking to us for advice because they want to build their own studio. So like you said, with education and stuff. And people had asked us that in the past and we'd like priced it out for them. And then they kind of always like shifted away from it, because it's
like,
it's an
it does
investment.
cost that it's very expensive.
Even with like the relationships we have and, how many vendors, we're working with, like it's still, you're going to have to spend a chunk of change to do like what we're doing. But, being able to offer that service as well and just consulting because, we were talking to a new client just the other day, and they're like, yeah, we're working with these panel companies and we just can't get any of this information. We're like, well, they're panel companies. They're not volume
they're sales
companies.
guys. They told us that in the 25 minutes we had this call that they learned more information in 6 months than they did with talking to these people. And we didn't even
give anything away.
No.
It's all,
we didn't want to give them the pie. We didn't want to tell them how we made the sausage, but we were giving them like pertinent information that they needed to know for their space. And they're like, oh my God, you guys are like great. And we're like, well,
they were being oversold.
Be helpful.
Right. Yeah. They were being oversold actually on like their pitch and stuff for like the space. They're like, these
panel companies were,
They're like, oh, you need a 1.9. How big's your studio? What, 4,000 square feet? We're like, you don't need a 1.9.
No, not for what they were doing.
And like it's kind of like a car too, like
a $4,000 one panel, $4,000. And
that's like buying a new Ferrari.
To get like 40 of those, yeah. So it's just
And again, that goes back on getting a second opinion, just like y'all did.
Exactly.
They got a second opinion, realized that they were kind of getting gypped. And I think that's one thing I've learned in the process of opening this, is that second opinions are great. I wish I could go back in time to when I was kind of first signing the lease and first finding the contractor and the interior designer and stuff like that, and just got a second opinion. Even if I don't go with that second opinion, but just to know what other bids are out there, what other people are charging. Like,
and what other people might be thinking too. For us, like when I was first looking at trying to source panels for our space, oh God, this was a couple months of me just like calling. I originally reached out to Onset Facilities. They're a UK-based virtual production company. They got on it before anyone else did.
Right.
And of course I forgot his name, but the guy that had started that company ended up being a consultant for Netflix's virtual production studios. That's how I remember you could tell he was very stressed out when I talked to him, but he was just like, yeah. It was like, I haven't slept in years, because he like figured it out. But, when I went to him, it
was like starting costs of $1 million. And we're like,
for like a base, it was like a 20-foot by 10-foot high wall, but it was a box. It was like a square box with a ceiling and a floor. And I was like, well, we don't need all that.
So it had 4 walls, a ceiling, and a floor?
No, I'm sorry, 2 walls. 2 10-foot walls,
okay.
A ceiling and a floor that, so it was a four-sided box.
Okay, yeah.
And we might have actually bought it if we had $1 million.
Yeah, maybe. But he was. I think they were only selling the row panels, which are the really top of the line ones at the time. There's many other manufacturers that have caught up to them. When I was looking around for panels, it was like, we didn't have the budget to buy new ones. We just didn't. After I found out how much these were really, really cost, so I was like, okay, well, we got to be economical. Like we only had $200,000, which is not a lot for a VP studio to start off of. But yeah, Chris and I both split that cost. I sold my house. She put in the savings that she had from crushing it with all the.
I'm not sleeping for 10 years.
Yeah. I found a vendor out in LA that had some old panels from the Tokyo, not old, but they had some panels that were supposed to be for the Tokyo Olympics, and the Tokyo Olympics didn't happen in 2020, so they had
extra stock,
a huge stock full of these. I think they had like thousands of panels. In the end, we ended up buying like 230 panels from them over the course of 2 years. But yeah, we got them for like a third of the cost. Yep. Which happened to fit our size. We bought a processor from them too that we ended up upgrading that processor because they're like, oh, this processor can't run our new wall. New wall's too big. So I was like, I have to find a new,
And the surprises and then the annual, the software costs and everything that we're paying too.
It's running a VP studio is very, very expensive.
So when so like I was saying too, like it's a hard jump for people to understand that. Like, okay, why are you priced at this amount a day? And it's like, well, because of that whole investment, and if doing an on location shoot makes more sense for you, do it, but if you want to do virtual production, then like that is what that cost is made up of. It's our research, it's our time, it's our equipment. It's our rent payments, like everything to operate the business. So there's a lot that goes into that.
Yeah, I mean, we, starting here in Austin, Austin's got a very interesting media community. And it's that, you'd think that because we're a technological town, is that, more people would be like, okay with it. However, it's a lot of education. And then they're like, oh, maybe we don't need this anymore, because they understand. They're just like, oh, okay, it is expensive to do this stuff. Like if you went out to LA, if you went out to New York, even, in the Midwest, wherever, their volumes, it's like 60, 70 grand a day. That's that's no one's spending that in Austin.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, some people are, but yeah.
well, the people, yeah, but Austin companies are not spending that money, right? You know, people are coming to Austin to shoot, and you know, because they're trying to find deals, and that's something that we've been fighting for 4 years.
Well, and the best way to do it is to schedule like a ton of production in a small amount of time. Like that's where you can really create efficiencies, like using the volume setup. Because, you know, we have a upcoming shoot that we're looking at, like probably, I don't know, 20 environments at least. We're gonna put up 2 volumes. We're gonna have at least 1 robot. You know, we're gonna be like knocking out production to create a whole lot of content in like 3 days production. So, being able to like vary that so dramatically is really like where you get the benefits, you know?
Yeah. When y'all planned it and y'all budgeted and y'all looked at the numbers, is there anything that y'all like that caught y'all by surprise?
No,
Well,
maybe
our
not
rent
anymore.
increases were a bit of a surprise.
Yeah, well, we always know that triple net's going to go up, but my God, dude, the property taxes in Austin are just absolutely crushing any business. You know, we're not a huge corporation. We don't have people, you know, feeding us work, you know, which would be amazing. It's like again, this is all grassroots. Like we're doing this, and so in order for us to like make ends meet, you know, we have to make sacrifices in a lot of ways. And so
we take out our own trash and we mop our own floors.
Yeah, you know,
and
we
we
don't-
build
yeah.
our own stuff.
yeah. So all that stuff, I mean, it makes us appreciate the business more though. Is that like, this is our second home,
Yep.
you know?
And we get exercise when we're moving the wall.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we do it all. Like we know all the technology, you know, we trained ourselves on it. You know, through just months and months and months of Google, you know, going down the rabbit hole, and then, just actually doing it. It's like, hey, let's try something new. And then we're also creating, again, new workflows and creating, you know, being pioneers, you know, in this field, is a lot of fun in a lot of ways. But man, we are problem solving, like you were talking about. We're problem solving every day.
Yeah.
Like, why is this a problem? Well, shoot, let's figure out how we can get around that. And I've got a solution for everything now, but good God, to get there is like, I mean, look how bald I am, man.
He was bald before we started the
I know,
business,
I know.
everybody. Anyway, the cool thing about being a creative, and I don't know if this resonates with you, is like there's always multiple solutions to any problem, right? So like, and there always is a solution. Like I don't care. And we went through this a little bit in the beginning. Just I can't do it. I'm like, you can. I know you can. Just take the time, figure it out, make some calls, look some stuff up. Like, but it's not like there's not only one solution. There's always going to be multiple ways to come at any problem or creative or anything. And I think opening a business is the same thing. Like you're always going to be presented with something, and then it's your job to like figure out a creative solution for it.
Yeah. I mean, so when you went to school, you know, were they teaching you like traditional filmmaking techniques, or were you going in there just learning how to use technology, and then the storytelling was something that you had to figure out on your own?
The route I took, storytelling, I figured out on my own. I think there probably were classes, there were screenwriting classes that I didn't take. They weren't in my curriculum for whatever reason. I was kind of doing 2 majors. I was doing video production and music, so I think I missed out on some classes in both of those. But yeah, so the storytelling came separate. So right out of school, I got a job doing video production at a church, and that's a great way to learn. You learn how to use a camera, you learn how to direct cameras, you learn how to tell stories, you learn how to edit, you learn how to work with volunteers.
You have a forgiving audience.
Exactly. You have a forgiving audience. So if your video's not very good, and they're not going to be great at the beginning. So yeah, but I think at the heart of anything that we do is storytelling.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like making commercials. The people who come to y'all's studio, they make the commercials to tell a story. Like ultimately to sell a product, of course, but they're going through this process and, you know, telling a great story.
Yeah. I mean, you know, when I went to TCU, I originally went there for film. I am not a good test taker. I didn't get into the film program, which is ridiculous. It wasn't because they didn't have a test to get in. I just didn't have a good GPA. You know, when I went to school, I was just like, you know what, I can't get into this film program, but I know this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And so I right around that time when I was like really struggling with like, okay, how come I can't get into the program? I feel like I'm talented enough, but like not smart enough. I ended up getting in a car accident, and I got a insurance settlement. It wasn't my fault, by the way. It wasn't my fault. Got an insurance settlement. I used that money to buy my first camera. So I got a DVX 100A, and I actually used that camera to like weasel my way in to shoot like all the short films for all the students at TCU, and also I got to learn how to light. And I got to do that all on my own. I was like, okay, I watched enough movies. I can figure this out. I can figure out where they put the light.
Like photographic memory with visuals. So I don't think anyone, like not everyone can just watch a movie and figure out how to light.
Thanks, dear. Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird skill I have, but yeah, that's how I kind of learned too. Is like the storytelling side. I just wanted to. You have to throw yourself into it. I got an investor for my first Red camera. Kind of just threw myself into the commercial industry in Dallas. That's where I was living at the time. Yeah, I mean, I didn't know anything about the business. I would have, like, looking back on it, this was back in 2007, 2008. I was just like, I would have done a few things different when I got that camera, like, put it into consignment with like one of the bigger rental companies, so I could have made my money back. But yeah, I mean, it's a lot of this, owning a studio is like we just threw ourselves into it.
Yeah.
Threw ourselves in, you're probably learning it too. So like, hey, you guys are in your second year. You've had a lot of growth. You're doing, I mean, this is a wonderful space, and it's probably attracting the type of people you want. And if it's not attracting the type of people you want, then you have to shift, like we were talking about earlier. It's like we always have to adapt. We always have to. And that, it stems from just at least the schooling that I did. It was like from the very beginning, I was just like, I was finding ways to do what I wanted to do, even though the traditional way of me doing it was not available to me. And that's my own damn fault for not studying.
Yeah, and you learn from your past, like mistakes or failures, whatever you want to call it. Like you're right, like you said, in hindsight, you could have done something a little bit different by owning that very expensive Red 1 camera. Mm-hmm. You could have made your money back in different ways, but that was a lesson learned, right? Like, and even though that was a failure or a mistake or whatever, like now you have that in your tool belt.
Well, yeah, I mean, I met my mentor. His name is Kevin Althans. He probably wouldn't consider, himself as a mentor. But every single commercial I did with him, he did like Home Depot and Coors and stuff. And I was like, he happened to hire me to be on them, which was awesome. But I just learned the techniques from him, how to light this even. I was just like, okay, I've been on a few sets before this, but man, commercials are a different beast, man. Being able to, like, you have to pop out a 30-second commercial in a day. Product shots I learned from him, like all those things, just like, okay, well, this is my life now. This is how I'm adapting and learning. And then just taking that knowledge and just trying to retain it as like you try to improve, your creative life cycle in terms of, and also meeting other people and be like, hey, let's create something new and let's figure it out as we go. And that's what's been happening the last 4 years.
Well, and like I think as business owners too, we all have to like realize what we have to let go. Which is always like one of the hardest things. But like even when I first started working with Justin, like I used to light and shoot all my own stuff, and I'm like, oh, he's way better at this than me. So like I kind of put down the camera and never picked it up again, honestly, because I'm like, you know what, this isn't gonna be where I'm gonna excel, because I don't have I don't have that magic that you had. So I realized that. And then like even as Justin's learning now, it's kind of like letting go of like the environment development part. You have to let go of some of the passions that like you still care about, because we are all artists and creatives. And it's like, I love doing that. But okay, what do I need for the business? That means this has to take a break so I can focus on this, right?
Yeah.
So those are hard decisions.
So in the past year, what about you? Have you let anything go?
Yeah. I mean, I think at my heart, I love being a DP. Mm-hmm. I love editing. And I love animation. Those are the skills that I love doing. I find passion doing it. I'll stay up late working on animations and edits and stuff like that. But owning a studio, you're right, takes more time. Mm-hmm. So I do have to kind of shelf all that stuff. I still have those skills.
Right.
I still do those for clients. If a client comes in and needs a logo animation, that's great. I get excited because I'm like, oh, okay, let me dust off, the skills there.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. You do have to kind of shelf some of those skills, and you'll always have them. right? It's not like you're completely putting the camera and throwing it away. You're just putting the camera on the shelf for a bit to make room for more passions.
Yeah. We, just a few months ago, we had we were working with Ballet Austin to produce a commercial for one of their new shows, and I hadn't DP'd something for a client in a very long time.
Had it been?
On a commercial.
Well, on that level, yeah.
On that level. So I was like, I was finally, and the director's name's Paul Bloodgood.
They were just like,
oh man, he told me how he wanted it to look. I was like, dude, you are like in my head. Awesome. Great. This is exactly how I like to light stuff. And so, we just nailed it. But being able to like just be able to pull that out of my toolbox, is really cool.
Well, that narrative style content, like we hope to see more and more of that, and we push that too.
It's great for volume work.
Yeah,
it is really great for volume. Oh, for commercials too. And commercials are becoming kind of hybrid of their own. Is that like they're going back to real basic like motion graphics on an LED wall, which normally like what they would do is it would be entirely CGI and have the same type of graphics. But now they're like, oh, no, let's shoot the real product and just throw them up on the wall. And that way it gives less work in post. It's like, so yeah.
Yeah, I'm starting to see more commercials that have virtual walls, and you can kind of see it if you're looking for it.
Sometimes.
Yeah. I mean,
especially car commercials. A lot of car
commercials.
They're like laggy and...
there's some that are like more intentional. We do have a client that comes in to shoot motorcycle products every once in a while, and they're very intentional with the wall being a character. They're not trying to meld the two. It's just that like they have the product in the middle of the studio, and they have these amazing graphics that they've created that they want to showcase on the wall that make it look like an LED wall. They're not trying to hide it at all. And so that, I think you either do it that way, or if you're going to go all in, you better make it look good.
Yeah.
And that's, it's hard. It's hard to like, match lighting, make sure that the environment on the wall is matching your environment in the physical space.
And that playback being smooth.
Yeah, you want playback to match frame rate. Like you have to. Everything has to be gen locked. It's like super nerdy stuff, but like that's what we test for.
Yeah.
We have a big commercial production come in, like we need at least a week because we have to problem solve, we have to squash, we have to optimize, we have to do all this stuff.
A week is hard. We can do it because we do it in-house, but that's tough. We prefer 2 weeks. And we like to, because we want client input too, right? So we want to be able to make changes and address things,
we're serving them.
Right.
I mean, when you all have a client here in the space, are there any like technical mishaps that you need to jump over before they come in here? Is it something that you've designed?
Yeah, sometimes. So typically I try to be like a turnkey solution, so I can just sit back and let them shoot. But yeah, we do our own shooting sometimes, and just like y'all, we own a studio, but we're also a production company.
Yeah.
Right. We know how to use a camera. We know how to tell a story, do the whole thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes clients will find the studio before they find like my production company.
Yeah.
And then they're like, hey, like I've got an idea for a shoot. Do y'all also offer, editing and stuff? And I'm like, oh yeah, of course. And that's kind of why y'all rebranded recently, right? Y'all were co-production house.
Yep.
Now y'all recently went through a name change and a rebrand, so y'all can start to more easily offer those production services.
Yeah. I mean, we would like to see a production go from start, from concept to post through us. However, we can, if they just need us to previs to, to provide like an environment for them, and then they take it from there, that's fine by us too.
If people have another company that they work with for their environments that they want us to collaborate with, we can do that.
Yeah. I mean, we're flexible. We just want to be able to support people.
Well, and even crew too. It's like, well, when we outsource crew, we only hire Texas crew. But if people have their crew, I mean, your crew's like your blood, like you've been working with people for a long time.
Yeah,
it's
like working with the same people,
And every other production company is the same, right? So like, we're only going to supplement what somebody needs from us, so we can go start to finish all the way through post, or we can just be your virtual production support, or we can just make your environment for you, or we can do, 3D product shots with an Unreal. Like we can do so many things.
All of those relationships are important to us. Like if we tend to like just be like too forthcoming in terms of like, no, we need to do all of it. That's not good for business, at least
it's
for
not
our
good for
business.
anybody, yeah.
No, it's kind of like forcing someone into something that they're going to be uncomfortable with.
You know how it is. Like, you have all these relationships that you developed, and like you just get in this flow with like the people that you really love to work with. Usually, talent attracts talent, and like you have, certain mind flows and things like that too. Yeah. So like, we absolutely never want to like step into anybody's process. We want to be there to support people, unless they want us to step in the process. Then we're there to offer that as well. So.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and y'all have grown since opening, right? Because like when y'all first opened, y'all had one wall.
Yep.
Right, and then y'all added another wall. Right, so y'all are kind of slowly growing.
And then we curved the wall.
Oh, you curved the wall?
We did.
Yeah, we curved
did,
the wall. Yeah, there was an opportunity.
Everyone was asking for it, and we ended up we had it all torn out down. We're putting it back together, and we're like, why don't we just throw some curving blocks in there?
Yeah. So what's next? Where are y'all growing now? Like where do
we're not
y'all see yourselves?
Yeah,
we have a plan.
There's some secret stuff.
We have a plan.
Yeah, we do have a plan in place for the next iteration of what we're going to be doing, which is exciting. But we will not be able to talk about it until it happens. So that's I don't want to say it's sitting on the back burner. It's very much at the forefront of like everything that we're trying to do right now. So it's there, but it's exciting. We're very, very excited for what we're going to be doing here in the future, and the now and the future.
Is this like a 1 year goal? Is this a 1 month goal?
We
what is
can't,
it?
can't say.
Oh, you can't give me anything over here.
Yeah, no. If we don't give away too much, because ideas kind of just get thrown out there, and someone might beat us to the market. So
well, we just like to keep our energy focused, and then when we're ready, we'll share. So.
Yeah. We're following some others that have done that. I'm not going to say their names either.
Okay.
So it'll give it away.
So let's just not talk about anything.
Yeah, we'll be very ambiguous about, very vague.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anything else you would like us to answer vaguely?
Yeah. What's the meaning of life while we're here?
Well, I mean,
that's easy.
I mean, the one thing that we could talk about is that, we will be continuing our Mastering the Volume series, as we had talked about before. And that's really important to us, because that actually like allows us to jump out of the work that we're doing with our clients, and then have a little bit of fun and test some new things out.
Yeah.
Some new techniques out. And those are things that we can kind of touch on.
That's why we started Mastering the Volume too. It's like, you don't want to try something new with a client's project. You want to give them tried and true, right? So anything that we want to test or we want to do, we're like, okay, how can we do this?
Yeah, so last summer we had the opportunity to make 2 of them, and then got busy.
Yep.
And then now, 3 is going to be a while.
Yeah, 3 is just we elaborated on the script to make it much more robust, and that just costs more time and energy. But no, I mean, we just have a great time like filming those too, and like we don't go at it with that, we have to get like all this done in a day. We're like, hey, we have an extra day here, let's shoot this scene, let's just like enjoy it and have fun. And it has been a joy, and you need something, like as a business owner, as a studio owner, that's just pure joy, and that's what those are. Yeah, and going to your studio, it's a great facility. I love it. And,
Thank you.
Virtual production is like a new thing. So I saw y'all's space maybe like a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
Because that would have been when I was
right before you guys. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
So good job. Yeah, keep
Thank
up
you.
the good work. What is one piece of advice y'all would give if somebody's wanting to open up their own studio, whether it be a large virtual production space that they're wanting to get into, or maybe a small video studio to kind of help spur their career? Is there any kind of piece of advice that you'd want to give them?
Mine would be market research. You want to know the market that you're trying to attract. You need to learn about it, and you need to understand it very well. If you don't have, and this goes with any business, if you don't have an idea of who your market is, then you're not going to have a successful business. So that's, market research, and people may ask, hey, how do I do that? And I'm just like, Google.
Yeah.
You see what's out there. Like, what are you presenting, and how is it different from other people? And so that's the one piece of advice that I've certainly learned over the last 5 years of us like developing our businesses, is that if we didn't have that, then we wouldn't be here.
Yeah. That's super important, and obviously something that like we thought about when we opened, but like I'd just say passion and creativity, right? And then like don't open something that you can't put your whole heart into because you won't succeed. And you know, we didn't have a bankroll. We didn't have much support. We didn't have a lot, you know, and there's a lot of challenges and like being a new business and like expenses and everything else. And if our hearts weren't in it, we would have given up a long time ago. But I also want to like encourage like people that like have those dreams to really jump in and do it, because there's so much talent and there's so many incredible people here, especially in Austin, that, you know, you have to do it, but you have to jump all the way in. And like, that's actually why I'm grateful that, you know, we are married, because like we would never get to see each other if we didn't work together.
I mean, as with anything, you know, any business out there has their own voice. Right? What does that voice look like? I mean, it's very similar to the market research. It's like you're trying to differentiate yourself from other businesses out there. So what is your offering, and how do you do it better or differently?
And like we talked about earlier too, being flexible. Like, don't be so stuck on your idea that it has to be our idea. Just be willing to change. You know, I think the whole, like, the reason we started moving the volume was, like, people asked. And, like, I could tell they were going to ask, because it'd always be, like, those big producers, like,
yeah,
you guys ever,
a bigger space?
I'm like, oh, yeah, we can move it to you. It's no big deal.
Go down to San Antonio with the wall? And,
right, yeah. So, and then, you know, we've had really, really amazing shoots that we've not done in our studio, that we've moved our technology elsewhere. So, you know, we just, there was the need. So we're like, okay, let's start offering it.
Yeah. And I think listening to the market, like you said, like you have customers or you have clients come and they tell you they want something, like you got to kind of listen to that, right? It's very easy to think like, well, clients don't know my business. I know my business. But I know here, like people would call and they would say, hey, do y'all do podcasts? And this was when we didn't have a podcast room. This is when we only had the production studio. This was a conference room. And I would be like, no, we don't, but I can set it up in the back. But it's going to be expensive because I'm going to have to set it up from scratch every time. So, you know, it would never work out. And then I thought, all right, podcast is the way to go. And now we're getting calls, people wanting to do webinars, right? Take their webinar game to the next level, right? So like you got to kind of listen to your customers.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, you know, the type of clientele that we've had for live streaming webinars is really interesting, is because they're all asking for similar things, and we're able to provide it to them. But, you know, a couple of years ago, this stuff didn't exist either, but it's just over COVID, you know, people were like, hey, what's a new way to like engage my audience? And podcasts are a way to go. Webinars are a way to go. And people eat it up. They love it. This stuff is very important.
Yeah. Well, good stuff. So how can people find y'all?
So we have vertigopictures.com, VIRTIGO. Yeah, so that's where they can find us. We're on Instagram too at Virtigo Pictures. Again, VIRTIGO.
Nice. Well,
Awesome.
cool.
Thanks,
Thank
man.
y'all.